First at 9. This is Derana 24/7.
In tonight's headlines, pandemonium in Parliament as government MPs vacate the House. Arjuna Mahendran before Commission of Inquiry. In international headlines, South Korea removes President Park Geun-hye. And in sports, Sri Lanka in control after setting 457 against Bangladesh in the first test in Galle. Good evening, Mahesh Johnny with Derana 24/7. We are live across Sri Lanka this hour, and as always, here's a first look at the local stories. Former Governor of Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry investigating the issuance of Treasury bonds this morning. The former governor gave a statement to the officers of the Criminal Investigation Department for about an hour. The chairman of the commission, Justice K.T. Chitrasri, yesterday announced that commission sittings due today would be cancelled and the commission will convene again on Monday. However, Secretary of the Commission of Inquiry has summoned the former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran to record a statement. Although commission proceedings were not held, the former governor visited the premises along with his attorneys to give a statement to the CID. Arjuna Mahendran revisited the commission in the afternoon and remained at the commission until 5 p.m. President Maithripala Sirisena calls all relevant institutions to initiate a proper method to formalise the disposal of garbage in Colombo and suburbs. He said this presiding over a discussion on the formalisation of waste management in Colombo and suburbs recently.
The discussion on the formalisation of waste management in Colombo and suburbs was held today at the Presidential Secretariat. The President instructed officials to expedite reconstruction and maintenance activities in several areas, including the Viharamadevi Park and the area around the Berry Lake, following complaints by the public. He also directed the police to conduct raids to detect improper disposal of waste.
If municipal councils face any difficulties such as lack of funds or administrative difficulties, let us know. These problems should be solved. I say this to all institutions.
They are working with supervisors and then they wouldn't collect garbage from houses. This is a big issue here. We should take immediate action.
If the tender system is not working out, organizations responsible should cut down salaries of their workers. These organizations should be strict. When a lot of money is being spent, there are people who want to get involved in it. And then all the garbage is left on roads. We understand what is happening.
545,000 metric tons of paddy is reported to have been destroyed due to extreme dry weather conditions prevailing in the parts of the country. Meanwhile, according to the Disaster Management Centre, approximately 12 million people of 320,000 families do not have access to safe drinking water.
Although a paddy production of 1.9 million metric tons was initially expected, expectations for the season have been revised to 1.3 million metric tons. According to the Department of Meteorology, 545,000 metric tons of paddy cultivation could be destroyed due to current dry weather conditions. The United Nations has warned Sri Lanka to prepare for a possible shortage of food in the near future. However, President Maithripala Sirisena recently stated that Sri Lanka will receive stocks of paddy from Indonesia, India and Pakistan. We contacted the Assistant Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Pradeep Kodipilli, to find out measures taken by the government to assist those affected by droughts.
With the conditions prevailing around the country, more than 1 million people being affected in that area, especially drinking water problem being identified in the many areas of Sri Lanka. And under the rules of disaster management and the disaster management center and the National Disaster Relief Center, already coping the situation with the help of district secretaries. And so far, all drinking water supplements are still continued with the houses and tanks in district officials, and 150 vouchers scheduled to be given. And 117 calls, the number is completely open for all situations, and people can access the free of charge into service.
Showers were expected in several areas in the country this evening, and thunder showers were reported in some areas in the Uva province earlier in the day. However, dry weather conditions will continue after the 15th of this month.
There was a tense situation in Parliament. We will be bringing that story to you shortly. But first, the US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Atul Keshav, yesterday paid his tribute to the final resting place of John Black, the first American commercial agent and consul to Ceylon. With a view to promote religious reconciliation, he also visited religious sites in Galle, including the Vijayananda Temple, Shiva Kovil and Juma Mosque.
The ambassador visited several historical places in and around Galle. His first stop was the All Saints Church at Galle Fort. Ambassador Keshav also went through the marriage registration book at the church, which dates back to the 1850s. He then visited the Galle Library, which is the oldest library in South Asia. The ambassador discussed mapping historically important sites and buildings in Galle town with the commissioner of the archaeological department as a first step in promoting Galle town as a World Heritage Site.
Historic buildings within the Galle Fort.
The ambassador paid tribute to his first American predecessor in Sri Lanka by offering flowers at the recently discovered grave of John Black in the All Saints Cemetery.
We honor today the memory of John Black, who was our first consular agent in Ceylon. He began his functions here in Galle in 1850, and he's buried right here in this cemetery. And this is a symbol of the attachment that we have, not only for the work that John Black did here in Galle, but for all of the partnership that we have with all of the people of Sri Lanka. We believe in a Sri Lanka that is able to contribute to peace and security and democratic values in the entire region. So we're going to continue our partnership just the way John Black would have wanted.
In other local stories, 13 kilograms of heroin were discovered in the possession of an individual who was arrested today by Grand Pass police after a raid conducted in the Nagalambi area. The suspect revealed information regarding the assets of the mastermind of the drug smuggling racket, who is also known as Japan Chuti. Acting on the information, police conducted a search on the mastermind's house, which is located near the Madampitia Road in Totalanga. The wife and children of the mastermind fled the house while the raids was underway. A sum of 8,070,000 rupees was discovered hidden in a shrine-like structure on the upper floor of the two-story house. 2 sports utility vehicles, 2 cars and 3 motorcycles were confiscated after the police searched a building located in Nagalambi that belonged to the suspect arrested today. On to business news now. Last month, Sri Lanka was proudly represented at the 5th edition of Asia's 50 Best Restaurants by 2 of its finest culinary establishments. Today, we take a look at how one man's passion and love for food became a platform for world-class dining.
I was in the US as a university student. I found that dorm food to be really bad. regular food is cooked so badly and not the right part. I started cooking on my own. Over the years, I developed the flair to cook it right. It was just pure greed or necessity or love to eat good food. Asia's 50 best list, Nihonbashi 5 years, Ministry of Crab 3 years. But being recognized by Japan was an amazing feat.
Darshan Munidasa set up 49th place Nihonbashi, meaning Japan Bridge, 22 years ago, bringing a slice of Japan to Sri Lanka. The restaurant offers authentic Japanese cuisine, and its main attraction is its sushi counter, housed in a minimalist bamboo atrium and surrounded by rock gardens in keeping with Japanese tradition.
The cost of location, cost of staff, there are varying degrees of what these costs are, but relatively they are all expensive. Ingredients, how they come to you, all these things are challenging. I think being a restaurateur is one of the hardest things that you can be.
Ranked 27th in Asia, the Ministry of Crab is housed in the Old Dutch Hospital premises, dedicating itself to serving export-quality lagoon crabs. Despite being only 6 years old, the Ministry of Crab has featured in Asia's top 50 restaurants list in all of the last 3 years. It is again a joint effort by renowned chef Darshan Munidasa and Sri Lankan cricketing legends Mahela Jayawardena and Kumar Sangakkara.
It's not for everybody. You need to be passion driven. You need to love food. You want to stand out, make it a career that's successful. You need to have those passions. Have fun eating, pay attention to what you're eating, enjoy what you eat. And that's the best part about my work.
Onto the stock market now. Stocks were lower after the close today as losses in the services, trading and investment trust sectors led shares lower. At the close in Colombo, the CSE All Share lost 0.06% to hit a new one-month low. Here is RM Sivanandan with more from the trading floor.
The benchmark All Share price index lost 3.81 points to close at 6,084.99. While the Centre Sri Lanka 20 index lost 5.34 points to close at 3,496.58. The turnover was 711.02 million rupees with 12.34 million shares changing hands in 2,811 trades. Top 5 gainers of the day were Assembly non-voting, Kotmale Holdings, Malayan Pips, Amanata Kaful and the Serendip Hotels non-voting. Today there were 6 crossings and the crossing turnover was 475.57 million rupees. Today's foreign purchases was 588.83 million rupees and the foreign sales was 413.87 million rupees.
Altogether, a detailed picture of how the markets performed during the week. Here is Lakshmi Pumika from NDB Securities with today's weekly review.
SPI dropped by 0.27% for the week, mainly due to price losses in Commercial Bank, Commercial Leasing and Finance and John Keys Holdings. S&P SL 20 that represent the blue chip counters also recorded a loss of 0.8% for the week. The average daily turnover was down from last week to 780 million rupees. During the week, foreigners were active with foreign buying accounting for 64% of total turnover. This resulted in a net foreign inflow of 1.2 billion rupees. Out of the weekly turnover, the block trades accounted for 53%, which was a lower proportion than last week.
The Sri Lankan rupee ended slightly weaker today in dull trade as imported dollar demand surpassed exported greenback sales a day after the central bank's moral secession curbed further decline. Rupee forwards were active with 2-week forwards ending at 152 rupees and 25 to 45 cents per dollar compared with yesterday's close. Here's a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day today. Well, let's get back to some local news. Speaker Karu Jayasuriya adjourned parliamentary sittings until the 21st of this month, citing unruly behaviour of MPs representing the joint opposition. As heated arguments developed during proceedings, Leader of the House and the Chief Government Whip vacated the House, prompting adjournment.
Although
the SLFP had agreed to work with the current government, some of our secondary parties within the UPFA had not agreed to do so. It is your responsibility and that of this House to give them the opportunity to express their views. You will then be able to control the House easily.
We were also discriminated while we were in the opposition. Therefore, I have at more instances focused on this issue. That is why I took action to allocate them. 55% of the time allocated for the UPFA.
Honourable Speaker, this is wrong. The UNP gets 40%. The UPFA gets 30% and the opposition gets 30% of time. That's right. But 30% is allocated to the UPFA and half of it, which means only 15%, is allocated to us. We are requesting the right to express the views of the opposition. The local government election has been postponed for 2 years. Minister Mangala Samarawira goes to Geneva and says that we will be holding a referendum for the proposed constitution. Does anybody discuss these matters? We are asking for the right to discuss issues which the current government does not want to talk about. A group of SLFP members are within the government. Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva is the one who doesn't agree to give us time. Honourable Speaker, it is true that you are the Deputy Leader of the UNP. However, when you are seated there, you are the Honourable Speaker of this Parliament.
I don't hold any positions in the UMP. I haven't set foot in the UMP headquarters after the election. It is with the approval of the UPFA that I have to appoint somebody to replace MP Dinesh Gunawardena.
The 51 of us don't even have permission to obtain a committee room to hold meetings. Parliamentarian Dinesh Gunawardena has to sign for those documents. Everything goes out of order when he is not around. You have to make the decision.
I completely agree that somebody else should be appointed. But choosing the replacement is not a decision I must make.
All we are asking is the right to talk about real problems of this country. When Dinesh Gunawardena is being ousted from the chamber, some of the opposition talks against it and some kept quiet. You should look up to the previous Speaker of this Parliament as examples and not documents given by Nimal Siripala or Mahinda Amaravira. You have to accept the rights of parliamentarians representing the 5 members of National Freedom Front. Otherwise, this chamber will not be able to work in a peaceful manner.
Please. Yeah, okay. I want to speak. You can start it. We are starting now. ප්‍රධාන කටයුතු අපි සභාවේ වැඩ කටයුතු මාර්තු 21 වෙනි දින දවල් 1 වෙනකම් කල් දමනවා.
Meanwhile, joint opposition parliamentarian Dallas Alaha Peruma said it was the first time parliamentarians fled the parliament chamber while sessions were still in progress. He said this at a press briefing inside parliament today.
It will go down in history that the 10th of March 2017 was the first time that a party to the government left the House while sessions were in progress. After MP Dinesh Gunawardena was suspended from Parliament for a week, 3 joint opposition members along with the former Speaker requested time to make a short speech. The Honourable Speaker allowed us. However, while making our statement, the Leader of the House and a few UNP members were on a rampage, disrespecting the Speaker, by trying to obstruct us from continuing to express ourselves. The government left the session and they were led by the Leader of the House. Yesterday, you mentioned that media briefings will not be allowed inside Parliament. How come you decided to have one today? The Speaker gave us permission to make a statement for which we are very grateful. This is a terrible situation, and until it is sorted out, we will not stop our protest. If the time allocated to parliamentarians today was allocated to MP Dinesh Gunawardena and MP Wimal Weerawansa, then today's disrespectful scenario could have been avoided.
The United National Party says it intends to inform the Speaker that severe action should be taken against parliamentarians who disrupt proceedings.
Yesterday, they wanted the Speaker to appoint Dallas Allaha to the position of Dinesh Gunawardena. The Speaker said that he cannot take a decision on the matter. Then MP Allaha said we are not invited for meetings of the United People's Freedom Alliance and that they don't inform us. He was saying this to the Speaker. The Speaker is not the leader of the UPFA. This claim should be made to the President. Parliament is not a place to discuss issues of the UPFA.
We have intended to make a request to the Speaker that severe action be taken against those who disrupt Parliament proceedings. A group that calls themselves the Joint Opposition have insulted the reputation of Parliament and have put parliamentarians to shame.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන් කියලා ලැජ්ජා සහගත තත්වයකට පත් කරලා තියෙනවා.
Moving on to sports news. In the fourth day of the first test against Bangladesh, Sri Lanka began their second innings this morning with a lead of 182 runs. Needing to extend their lead quickly and take advantage of the early start, it was Upul Tharanga who stole the show with his first test century on home soil.
The two batsmen coming out the openers, and so is the Bangladesh team. So let's go across and join our...
Tharanga and Dimut Karunaratne were cautious in seeing off the new ball, but the score began to accelerate as the day wore on. Karunaratne and first innings hero Kusal Mendes fell after getting starts, but Dinesh Chandimal proved excellent foil for the Centurion. Tharanga eventually fell for 115, and Sri Lanka declared at the fall of Dilruwan Pereira's wicket with Chandimal unbeaten on 50. Despite no team successfully chasing more than 99 in Galle and having a tricky final session to face, Bangladesh began their pursuit confidently, with Samya Sarkar counter-attacking his way to a quick half-century. At stumps, Bangladesh were 67 for no loss, requiring a total of 457 to win.
Again behind that one, nearly...
In school cricket, as the big match season gets underway, there are 8 schools across the country battling it out for their respective trophies. Let's take a look at 3 of those encounters, starting with the centenary meeting between Trinity and St. Anthony's.
The two schools faced off at Pallakale today, with Trinity College winning the toss and choosing to bat. Hasitha Boyagoda's 90 and 83 from Shanmunganathan helped Trinity to 204 for 4 at stumps. Meanwhile, Royal College and St. Thomas's College faced off at the SSC in the second day of their 138th contest. After Royal College scored 255 in their first innings, the Thomians were able to tie their score for the loss of only 4 wickets, thanks largely to Ravindu Kodithuaku's 98. The 66th Battle of the Goals between St. Sebastian's College and Prince of Wales got underway today in Moratuwa. Prince of Wales College were put into bat and scored 230 during the day's play, with St. Sebastian's set to resume tomorrow.
On to international news and into one of our headline stories. South Korea's President Park Geun-hye has been removed from office after the country's constitutional court upheld her impeachment today over a long-running corruption scandal. A presidential election to replace Park will be held in 60 days according to the constitution.
On announcement of the verdict, detractors of Park Geun-hye cheered while her supporters wept and scuffled with police outside the Constitutional Court. Two protesters died in accidents during clashes with police. Park Geun-hye has been accused of colluding with a close friend and confidant Choi Soon-sil to pressure major businesses to donate to two foundations that Choi controlled. Both women have denied any wrongdoing. Park, the first democratically elected leader to be forced from office in South Korea, will lose her presidential immunity and be liable to prosecution.
Tibetan protesters held demonstrations as they mark the 58th anniversary of a failed uprising against China, which has ruled the Himalayan plateau since 1950. While China addressed the issue at an annual parliamentary briefing, Tibetans in India and Australia took to the streets calling for their nation's independence.
In Sydney, protesters marched to the Chinese consulate calling for a free Tibet, holding signs and chanting slogans under the watchful eye of police. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, police response was harsher as they intercepted protesters marching towards the Chinese embassy. China said foreign journalists were free to carry out reporting in the area, but separatist activities would not be tolerated. The country takes a strong stance against those who espouse the cause of Tibetan autonomy and have branded the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet and a Nobel Peace Prize winner, as a dangerous separatist.
On to the weather now. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places over most parts of the island after 2 p.m. except in the Jaffna district. A few showers also likely along the southern and western coastal areas during the morning too. There may be temporary localized strong winds during thunder showers. General public is advised to take adequate precautionary measures to minimize damages caused by lightning activities. Here's your city by city forecast. Well, that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. For the latest in local, international, business, sports, weather or entertainment news, log on to www.otherderana.lk or like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at Other Derana. I'm Mahesh Johnny. Before we go, we like to leave you with the special street stage of the World Rally Championships in Mexico. Well, English news on Other Derana will return next Monday at 9 p.m. Enjoy the weekend and have a good night.
Information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.